3 spine-chilling and sinister true summer vacation tales. Discover the haunted secrets exposed. The Johnson family thought they were starting a new chapter. Summer in Maplewood promised sun, laughter, and lazy afternoons. Little did they know, they were stepping into a nightmare. With the car packed high and the kids chattering excitedly, Emily shot a smile at Mike, her husband. 2 perfect weeks lay ahead, or so they thought. As soon as they arrived, an unsettling chill crept in. The picture-perfect suburb, with its pristine lawns and gleaming window shutters, felt wrong. A low hum coughed up from behind every grinning neighbor, like an echo of something sinister buried deep below. They settled into their charming rented home, but strange things began to unfold. As night fell, the lights flickered like a heartbeat, quick, then slow, as if breathing down their necks. Addressing the hushed exchanges and odd stares of neighbors, unease coiled tighter within them. When a crumpled letter appeared at their doorstep, the words dripped with foreboding, "You are being watched." At first, the family laughed it off, but the laughter quickly faded, replaced by dread that coiled like a serpent in their stomachs. That evening, they joined neighbors for a backyard barbecue. It was a scene ripped from a postcard: grilled meats, children running freely, but the air felt thick, laden with something unspoken. Every smile seemed twisted, every laugh just a fraction too loud. The Johnsons felt like imposters at a masquerade, their unease palpable amidst laughter. Returning home, Mike could no longer shake a gnawing sense of danger. He paced the living room, feeling exposed, like prey in a predator's den. The local constable's unnerving smile did little to calm their nerves. "Enjoy the summer. Don't mind your business," he had said, brushing them off. Isolation crept in, deepening paranoia. That night, the sound of Snickers, ghostly and cold, drifted from beyond their property line, sending a shiver down Jake's spine. The 10-year-old, adventurous and curious, caught a shadow skimming through the tree line with his phone. As they all huddled to watch the video, each racing heartbeat drummed louder. A fleeting figure darted past, a flicker of something not meant to be seen. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Desperate to unravel the mystery, the Johnsons wandered down an overgrown path, swallowed by twisted trees that loomed over them. They stumbled upon an old, dilapidated schoolhouse, steeped in dark lore. Crossing its threshold felt like stepping into a mouth that was going to swallow them whole. The air grew cold, whispering secrets of lost children and forgotten screams. Inside, deep carvings marred the wooden desks, names of those who had suffered, echoing through the shadows. Suddenly, the atmosphere thickened, a heaviness pressing down on their chests. They heard footsteps, ghostly echoes of the past mingling with their own. As they turned, a voice, eerily familiar yet warped, floated through the air. It was a song from Jake's childhood, twisted like a vine, beckoning. Dread rolled in, tightening its grip. The ground trembled underfoot, vibrating with warning. With shadows closing in, the air turned suffocating. Was it the ghosts of Maplewood, or something living, waiting? Would they escape or become trapped in the haunting embrace of the secret? The Johnsons could only shiver in the dark, unsure if survival was even possible. The ground vibrated beneath their feet, each tremor pulsing like a heartbeat, quickening the dread that had settled in the pit of their stomachs. Emily glanced at Mike, her eyes wide, heart racing. They shared a look, one that whispered their unspoken fears. This was no ordinary place. It clung to them like a fog, heavy and suffocating. "Let us go," Mike urged, breaking the spell that had gripped them. They turned to leave, but the shadows seemed to shift and stir, almost as if alive, reaching out with dark fingers made of night. The way back felt longer, the path twisting in traps of anxiety and foreboding. Breaths came quick, shallow, as whispers wrapped around them, threads of voices that spoke words lost to time. "Mom, did you hear that?" Jake's small voice sliced through the darkness. He was several steps behind, his phone illuminating the surrounding trees, casting erratic gleams that danced like phantoms. The laughter, the haunting mockery, grew louder, echoing in the air as if the woods themselves were mocking their retreat. "Stay close," Emily shouted, gripping Jake's arm, her voice strained with panic. Suddenly, something darted by, just out of reach of the flashlight. It was swift, a quick flicker of movement that vanished into the thicket, and the shadows erupted in a cacophony of giggles. They weren't alone, and the knowledge sent chills racing down her spine. They burst from the trees and back into the familiar confines of their rented house, slamming the door shut behind them. The sigh of relief didn't last long, it hung heavily in the air, filled with an eerie static. They could feel the gaze of the house settling upon them, watching. Mike looked around, eyes scanning the dark corners of the room as if expecting something to leap out from the shadows. "We need to lock the doors," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Emily nodded, dread pooling like ice in her limbs. She stepped toward the windows, pulling the curtains tight, isolating them from the haunted town. "Are we safe here?" Jake asked, trembling gently beside them. His innocence clashed with the darkness enveloping their eerie surroundings. Emily knelt beside him, smoothing his hair. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe." But the conviction wasn't there, just weary reassurance slipping through her lips. Night stretched on, and time felt frozen. They huddled on the couch, the television flicking through channels, but there was no comfort in the images flashing before them. The eerie sensation clung around them, it was a weight they couldn't shake. Outside, the world felt alive with murmurs and rustling branches, echoes of the past. Then the lights flickered again. The heartbeat of the house followed, pumping fear deep into their veins. Jake's phone buzzed, drawing their attention. A notification, another video. Hesitation hung in the air, but the curiosity drew them in, arms reaching for the screen. What they saw made them gasp. A video of their own backyard recorded moments before. They hadn't seen it, but the dim light caught shadows darting outside, kids with hollow eyes and wide grins. Just standing there, staring right at the house. Jake's voice quivered. Are they watching us?" Suddenly, the door handle rattled violently. Panic surged. The sound echoed through the stillness, frantic and wild, a cold, calculated attempt to break into their fragile sanctuary. They froze, hearts drumming, blood roaring in their ears. What awaited them on the other side? Were they finally confronting the truth or merely luring the darkness in? Before they could think further, the door burst open. What or who stood there, shrouded in night? The room's air thickened, and the Johnsons stared into the face of their worst nightmare. "Help us," it whispered, a voice like rusted metal on their ears, and the chilling truth revealed itself. Was the town haunted by those that had come before? And now, were they next? The silhouette loomed in the doorway, darkness swirling around it like a shroud. It was a child no older than Jake, with eyes that glinted like polished stones, void of warmth. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she tried to make sense of the unholy image before her. The boy's grin was wide, too wide, stretching unnaturally across his pale face. An echo of the laughter from the woods was carried by the wind, wrapping around them like a cold embrace. "Help us," the voice was like nails scraping against wood, hollow and echoing. The stillness of the air thickened, weighed down by an unseen terror that pressed against their chests. "Who are you?" Mike demanded, though his voice trembled, the bravado only thinly disguising the panic surging through him. "Come play with us," the boy insisted, stepping forward, shoes barely making a sound on the wooden floor. Something in his gait was wrong, too fluid, too effortless for a child. Jake instinctively moved closer to his mother, the glow from his phone illuminating their faces but casting deep shadows on the walls around them. "We can't play. We have to," Emily started, but the door swung back, hitting the wall with a heavy thud. The night sucked out of the room as if the moon had vanished. The laughter, now a raucous frenzy, grew louder outside, filling the overwhelming void. "What do you want?" Jake squeaked, voice trembling, eyes wide with fear. "We want to be free." The child's voice turned melodic, a sing-song that chilled them further. "The woods keep us trapped. But you are here now." He cocked his head to the side and blinked, revealing glinting tears that rolled down his cheeks, but they weren't tears. They were shadows. Emily's heart raced. "We can't help you. We don't know how." Panic dripped from her words as she stepped backwards instinctively. "Leave!" a new voice croaked from behind the boy, deeper, more sinister. Another figure emerged, a gaunt adult figure with sunken cheeks and eyes that neglected to blink. "Leave or join us!" It stepped forward too, crowding the doorway, and the shadows swelled, absorbing the light. Mike took a step backward, his hand gripping Emily's shoulder, ready to pull them away. "Jake, let us go!" he shouted, urgency rising. But the child blocked their escape, laughter echoing eerily as dozens of other faces began to appear from the shadows outside, their eyes locked upon the family eyes that glinted and reflected back the oppressive night. "We'll never leave," the shadowed adult murmured, a grin creeping up his face, showcasing rows of yellowed teeth. "Not until you play." The air crackled with tension, stagnant and electric. "What, like how you did?" Emily shot back, gathering courage in the face of their horror, fueled by the maternal instinct to protect her son. "This isn't a game." "Not a game," the child echoed, the laughter steadying into a drone, melding with the wind and encircling them, reading their fears. "A promise." The figures outside shifted, closing in, an impenetrable wall of darkness beyond the threshold. Emily felt the weight of despair crashing around them, the walls trembling as the very foundations of the house protested. "Run!" Mike yelled, pushing his family toward the back of the room, their instincts screaming that perhaps there was a way out through the kitchen. But shadows twisted, forming a barrier in their retreat, and the laughter morphed into a chorus of whispers that began to wrap around their thoughts. As they fought against the encroaching darkness, Emily caught a glimpse of the door, the only link to the salvation of the outside world, swaying slightly, as if beckoning them. But what if it led them to another trap? "Stay!" the faces cried, their voices blending together, mixing fear and longing. Something deep inside Emily ignited. That moment of desperation, she felt a sharp pull, a piece of hope, however small, igniting within her. "I want to leave Jake!" she screamed, but in that instant, the air shifted again. Everything froze. Suddenly, a figure screamed from the back. The maddening embrace of the dark swallowed the sound. What had they awakened? And who would be the first to pay the price of their presence? This was no longer about escape, it was about survival. As the shadows lunged, threatening to take them into the void, a cold realization surged through Emily. They were already caught, trapped among the cursed. What could save them now? The shadows surged forward, curling around Emily like icy fingers, trying to pry her from her family. Panic drove through her veins, sharp and electrifying. She clung to Jake, heart pounding, as Mike tugged at her arm. "We have to go." His voice was laced with an urgency that both terrified and galvanized her. "Where?" Emily whispered, her eyes darting to the child, who now grinned with a mirth that was anything but innocent. The other figures outside widened their grins, teeth glistening in the faint glow of Jake's phone. The shadows warped behind them, lending the adults an elongated, grotesque appearance. "Don't you want to help us?" the boy asked, his voice dripping with sweet venom. "We could have so much fun." "Fun?" Jake echoed, confusion warping his fear. Like before, the boy's voice trailed off, almost dreamlike, and the laughter outside intensified, thrumming in Emily's chest like a heartbeat. In that moment, clarity struck Emily. They could not play. They had to fight. This wasn't a game, it was a battle between the shadowed promise of freedom and the suffocating threat they posed. "We will not play," she shouted, the words ripping from her throat like a war cry. The boy's smile faltered, just for an instant. "You can't refuse," he hissed. The laughter outside stuttered, but it quickly morphed into a chorus of enraged howls. Mike stepped forward at Emily's side, forcing himself between her and the encroaching darkness. "Get back!" he shouted, his voice slicing through the cacophony. He grabbed the nearest object, a chair, and swung it toward the boy, hoping to shatter the illusion. The chair passed straight through the boy as if he were smoke, a ripple in the air. The child didn't flinch. The other faces outside seemed to shimmer with laughter, growing louder, feeding off Mike's desperation. "Stop this!" Emily cried, clutching Jake tighter. "What can we do?" Jake asked, voice trembling. She could feel his small frame shake against her. "Give them what they want," a voice crooned softly, laced with a sinister sweetness, emerging from behind the shadowed adult that lingered at the door. "Join us in the shadows. Take your place among us." "No!" Emily shouted again, her heart racing in defiance. The words felt like a barrier against the darkness. She spotted the door again, swaying slightly, as if taunting her with the possibility of escape. Jake looked up, eyes wide. "Mom?" But Emily was locked in a staring contest with the grinning child. "What do you want?" she demanded, raw fear shaking her voice. "To play, of course. To be free like you, to truly feel," the child replied. "We've waited so long for someone brave." A cold perspiration washed over Emily. She took a fragile step back, gauging the figures tightening around them. Mike turned back to the doorway behind them, weighing their options. "There has to be a way out. We've got to get to that door." The boy stepped closer, shadow shifting and writhing, stretching toward them. "But you can't leave." His smile widened, teeth glinting like broken glass. A wave of noise rolled around them, angry whispers rising. Join us," they chanted, a siren's call wrapping around her. "Emily!" Mike shouted, pulling on her arm, "We need to push through." With a heart-squeezing determination, she nodded. "Together. On 3. But as they prepared to charge, the door abruptly swung open, revealing a black void beyond a waiting mouth of despair. "Join us!" the boy implored, laughter merging with the whispers, both taunting and inviting. The shadows coalesced, a swirling mass hungry for their surrender. Emily felt the darkness's weight pressing against her mind, clawing for entry. Could they make it? Would they succumb? "Now!" Mike yelled, and they surged toward the door, the air crackling with tension as shadows lunged to stop them. Would they break free? Or would the void consume them? A scream echoed out, not theirs but the shadowed laughter resounded, filling the night. The promises swelled around them like smoke, choking out light, leaving only darkness in their wake. That promise hung in the air like a poisonous mist. What awaited them on the other side? Would stepping through be their salvation or their doom? The world beyond the door loomed ominously, a tapestry of darkness woven with the threads of despair. Emily could feel the icy breath of the void creeping in, curling around her throat like a noose. Raging whispers pushed against her ears, dulling her thoughts, her will. Panic snagged at her heart as she glanced at Jake, his innocent face contorted with fear, mirroring her own. "Go!" Mike shouted, his voice sharp as he surged forward, dragging them both. Shadows slashed around them, veiling their path, twisting at their ankles like serpents. Emily could hear the laughter ripple around them, mocking their frantic rush. With every step, she felt herself wading deeper into quicksand, each footfall heavy with despair. "Don't let go." Her voice broke, fighting against the symphony of calls that penetrated her mind. The boy's laughter echoed, taunting them as shadows writhed and contorted. "You don't want to leave. You want to stay here with us." But something inside Emily thrummed with defiance. "No." She shook her head furiously, as if she could ward off the deft fingers of darkness. "We want to play your game." She screamed, feeling the weight of the shadows press in closer. Suddenly, the door began to close. Mike's breath hitched, and he lunged, pulling Emily and Jake with him. "Now!" His command was thunderous amidst the chaos. They sprinted forward, making their way to the threshold as the shadows coalesced into a thicker fog. "Sharpen your will," Emily shouted, forcing a raw surge of energy into her legs. The embrace of darkness tried to claw at them, but their shared hope ignited something fierce within each of them, a flickering flame against the encroaching night. A deafening crack rang through the air as they barreled toward the door. The echo reverberated in their bones, a visceral reminder that they couldn't afford to turn back. Just as they reached the frame, the laughter crescendoed, spiraling into a chilling crescendo that gripped their hearts. Emily twisted, casting one last glance at the boy. His eyes glimmered with something dark and ancient, and for a fragmented moment, she thought she saw a shadow of sorrow flicker across his face. And then they burst through. The world beyond was no better. It was a dark expanse littered with fog, the air thick and suffocating. They stumbled, gasping for breath as they tumbled onto the cold ground. Shadows prowled on the periphery, waiting, watching. "Did we make it?" Jake whispered, his voice trembling. Breathless and on edge, Emily turned to Mike, who was already scanning their new surroundings. "We can't stay here," he murmured, dread creeping into his tone, but the laughter came again, now echoing from all sides. "You can't escape," it howled, a malicious symphony that danced on the breeze. "Emily, we need to find a shelter. Somewhere safe," Mike urged, gripping her arm, but Emily could feel it, an ominous presence closing in. "What if they follow us?" Their surroundings shifted, the fog swirling like living creatures. She felt the shadows creep nearer, ready to ensnare them once more. "If we don't run, we'll only find out what they're truly capable of," Mike insisted. With newfound determination, Emily nodded, her heart racing. They took off into the night, the sound of their footsteps mingling with the resonant laughter echoing through the mist. But fear crawled along her skin as she sensed the shadows tailing them, a wraith-like hunger pressing at their backs. "Where are we going?" Jake gasped, his small legs straining to keep up. "We just have to keep moving," Emily responded, her voice shaking. "We'll find a way out." Yet deep down, an unsettling thought gnawed at her mind. A way out was what they sought, but what if there was nowhere to run? As they dashed further into the darkness, the laughter transformed into a whisper, curling in their ears, wrapping around them like a tight embrace. "You belong with us." Emily's heart, a frantic drum in her chest, felt the shadows coiling tighter. They needed to reach the light, away from the whispers. But with every step deeper into the fog, something shifted. A heavy weight settled over their shoulders. The vivid sense of decay and despair thickened in the air, the taste of gloom filling their mouths. Then, just ahead, a glint caught Emily's eye, a flicker of silver in the darkness. A door. Another door, pulsating with a strange light, inviting yet foreboding. "Should we?" Mike asked, eyes wide with uncertainty. Emily hesitated. The choice hung there, the silver door or the encroaching shadows. What waits beyond this time? She wondered, heart racing. Is it salvation or the heart of the darkness? And then the shadows thickened, closing in with a ferocity that spun the air cold around them once more. Would they dare cross the threshold again? Would they understand the price of their curiosity? The air trembled with a strange energy as Emily stood before the silver door, a hypnotic gleam beckoning her closer. Her instincts screamed for her to turn away, to flee from the shadows creeping in. But something deeper pulled her forward, an urge to confront whatever awaited behind that threshold. "Emily, we can't," Jake whispered, his innocent eyes wide with terror. "Just a quick look," she said, barely hearing her own words over the cacophony of laughter echoing around them. "Quick?" Mike echoed, his voice strained. "That's how it starts, Em. We don't have the luxury of quick." The door began to swell, its outline shimmering like a mirage. Panic surged within her, but curiosity clawed at her heart. The whispers intensified, coaxing and prodding, slithering into her thoughts. "You want to know?" they hissed, promising revelations in exchange for her trust. Trust what? She thought bitterly. The darkness? Suddenly, the shadows lunged, surging forth with a hungry wail that struck terror deep into her core. The trio stumbled back, their retreat too slow. A heavy fog wrapped around their ankles, pulling them down. Run! Mike barked, seizing Jake's hand. Emily's pulse hammered in her ears. The world around them seemed to swell and contract, an unseen force teasing them like a cat with a mouse. Don't look back! She shouted, but the shadows hissed her name, beckoning her to see their truth. Emily clenched her jaw, forcing herself to focus. The silver door flashed in her mind, a remnant of hope amidst the chaos. Over there! Mike shouted, pointing towards an ancient structure rising from the mist, an old dilapidated cabin, rotting wood barely holding together. Desperate, they ran toward it, slipping through the door just in time as claws of darkness reached hungrily for them. Inside, the air was stale and heavy. The faint smell of mildew mixed with something sharper, like iron. Shadows danced along the walls, silhouettes of figures lost to time. Emily's heart thudded painfully against her ribs as they surveyed the gloom. Is it safe? Jake asked, his voice trembling. I don't know, Mike replied, scanning for threats. Emily pressed a finger to her lips. The whispers outside had quieted to a distant murmur, but the silence within the cabin filled her with dread. Listen, she urged, straining to hear. Just then, a restless rustling echoed from the corner. An old rocking chair creaked back and forth despite the absence of a breeze. It was as if someone or something had just vacated their place. A flicker of movement. Her heart pounded, and she felt the urge to flee sweep over her again. This can't be good, she whispered, backing away. Mike stepped forward, his courage reignited. We need to find a way out. There might be a back door. But before they could turn, the cabin shuddered around them, the walls humming with a malicious energy. The sensation was tangible, suffocating, as if the structure itself had come alive. The shadows flickered, growing deeper, ink-like. Look! Up there! Jake pointed at a staircase spiraling into the darkness above. Are we really going up? Emily asked, eagerness blended with trepidation. What if it leads to more shadows? There's no other option. We either face that or whatever lurks out there, Mike urged, eyeing the looming door. A rush of adrenaline coursed through Emily as they climbed the stairs, heart pounding. The whispers started again, swirling around them. You want to know the secrets, you want to know what hides in the light. Just as they reached the top, the murmur transformed into maddened laughter. The silver door below burst open with a violent crash, releasing a vortex of shadows that rushed toward them, eager for their souls. Quick! In there! Mike shouted as he pushed open a door on the landing, revealing an attic filled with trunks, dust swirling in the beams of pale light. Emily hesitated on the threshold, fear coiling tighter. They might seal themselves in with whatever evils the shadows held. Emily, now! He urged again, shoving her forward. As she stumbled into the room, breaths quickening, she realized. She could still hear that same taunting voice. You think you're safe? It mocked. You still don't know what's waiting on the other side. The revelation sent ice coursing through her veins. Clutching the attic door close behind her, she knew one truth: the shadows weren't just outside anymore. They had woven themselves into the very fabric of their souls. What would they find in this attic? Was there a way out, or were they entombed in an eternal game of fear? As something rustled nearby, Emily's heart plummeted. The stakes were rising, and with them, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Yet, their horror was only just beginning. Their breaths echoed in the suffocating stillness, a frantic rhythm that matched the hammering in Emily's chest. The attic was dark, the only light slicing through dust-laden beams that seemed to hover, alive with menace. Shadows writhed, casting monstrous shapes that played tricks on her mind. Guys, we need to, she started, but Jake's wide eyes darted to a corner, silencing her. Did you hear that? He whispered, his voice trembling. Emily strained to listen. The soft creaking of wood seemed to pulsate like a heartbeat. It was coming from a trunk, its surface battered and splintered, as if it had braved countless storms and secrets. An unnatural chill danced across Emily's skin, ice crawling up her spine. Maybe it's just the wind, Mike suggested, but his voice lacked conviction, fading like the fading thrust of their hope. Suddenly, the sound escalated into frantic scrapes, a muffled rustling, urgent and desperate. It was as though whatever lay within the trunk wished for release, clawing against the confines that bound it. Do we open it? Jake asked, fear twisting his words. Emily hesitated, glancing at Mike. He met her gaze, uncertainty etched across his face. The thoughts raced. If they opened it, would it be salvation, or would they unleash something far worse? No, we shouldn't, she murmured, heart sinking. We need to find another way out. Too late. Mike's impatience flared. He pulled the trunk clasp open with a grunt, the hinges screaming in protest. Dust exploded into the air, swirling like a living entity. The trunk creaked, revealing a dark void within. There were no treasures here, only an ominous depth that seemed to pull at the very fabric of reality. And then, an unnatural hand shot out, pale and gnarled, grasping the edge of the trunk. It jerked itself up, revealing a gaunt figure that emerged from the shadows, its face obscured. Emily recoiled, tears pricking at her eyes. Who are you? Help me. It rasped, a haunting voice layered with anguish. Please. They want me back. An icy wave of dread crashed over her. Who wants you? The figure's eyes glowed with a desperate light. The shadows, they want to let me go. They need more souls, they feed on fear. The words hung in the air, clinging like the sticky tendrils of fog outside. Emily felt her body freeze. Shadows darted around the attic walls, mocking their presence, whispering their fears, daring her to turn and run. Jake backed away, sweat trickling down his brow. We can't listen to it. It's a trick. I don't think it is, Emily breathed, her instinct battling with dread. What if it's telling the truth? Truth? Mike scoffed, fear creasing his brow. It's just a shadow's puppet. We can't trust it. The figure lunged closer, its arm outstretched as though to pull Emily into the dark. You must listen. Darkness is coming. They're here. The walls shook as the attic trembled, a collective groan that resonated through the cabin. The palpitating shadows reached out, almost tangible, clawing at the very air around them, hungry for fear. Quick! What should we do? Jake cried, backing toward the attic door, his voice rising in panic. Hide! Mike yelled, searching frantically, find something, anything. With nowhere left to look, Emily scrambled to the far end of the attic. She spotted a small, ancient mirror hanging crookedly on the wall, its surface darkened and webbed with cracks. Maybe it's a portal? She thought, her pulse racing. But a shiver of dread whispered that wasn't the only thing that could be revealed. The box rattled violently, the figure within twisting and writhing, its plea growing stronger. Run! Don't let it take you. With wide eyes filled with horror, Emily glanced at Mike and Jake, then back to the mirror. The shadows loomed closer, urging, biting at her resolve. Would she dare to look, to confront its truth? Or would that sealed moment drown them all in the waiting darkness? Emily's heart raced as she reached for the mirror. Then the attic door slammed shut with a thunderous bang. Emily! Jake screamed. We need to, but the words were lost in the growing cacophony of laughter, a mad chorus that sang of their impending doom. What awaited her in the mirror? Was this the moment of truth or the beginning of a fate worse than death? The shadows thickened, swirling in an insidious dance, as a chilling realization ghosted over her. The game had only just begun. Emily's hand trembled, hovering inches from the mirror's cracked surface. Her breath caught in her throat as she felt the shadows draw nearer, a sinister swirl that threatened to pull her in. The gaunt figure from the trunk was still close, its features obscured but the desperation in its eyes glaringly clear. "Do you really want to know?" It rasped, the voice like a gravelly whisper dragging through the darkness. "Once you look into the mirror, there's no turning back. You see what they see." Every nerve in Emily's body screamed at her to pull away, yet something deep within her, a mix of curiosity and fear, kept her rooted to the spot. Jake's wild eyes darted between her and the hidden figure, while Mike backed against the wall, panting as if oxygen had become a limited resource. "Emily, please. We can't do this," Jake pleaded. But doubt sank deep. Did they really have any choices left? Before she could pull away, the mirror pulsed with energy, smoothing over the cracks and reflecting a dark, swirling mist. She felt drawn in, as though the mirror were a living being, promising answers while cloaked in dread. "What if I can see a way out?" she thought, though the notion came with a heavy toll. As she leaned closer, visions blurred into focus. A scene unveiled within the glass, a vibrant schoolyard now transformed into a graveyard of laughter, wilting flowers festooned in decay. Sorrowful faces, children with hollow eyes, watched her with a longing that tugged at her heart, whispering tales of joy turned to despair. Suddenly, a visceral chill enveloped her. "They're trapped," the figure muttered, drawing her attention back. Its voice were tinged with a fervent desire, as if it knew their pain. "They cannot escape until someone else takes their place." "Emily, snap out of it!" Mike shouted, but the shadows had grown bolder, crawling around his legs, licking up the walls. They were hungry, eager to devour any glimmer of hope. In that moment, a cacophony of laughter erupted from the mirror, shrill and unhinged. It twisted around her thoughts like a vice, squeezing her resolve into pulp. This laughter was not joyful, it was a harbinger of horror, mocking her as the lost souls flickered in and out of view. "Forget them!" the figure shrieked, lunging closer. "They will only bring you despair. You must save yourself." Emily felt trapped in a kaleidoscope of fear and pity. "If I take a risk, will their suffering end?" The question pierced her heart, a morbid curiosity taking hold as the mirror beckoned. An unexpected roar erupted. The attic rumbled, shaking with an intensity that rattled her bones. Shadows swirled like a storm, and Emily, caught in indecision, felt the mirror's pull wrenching at her feet, dragging her closer. "Just look!" the figure cried. "See the truth buried in the depths." Fear quivered in her chest, threatening to explode. Yet her instinct pushed her forward, the mixture of dread and adrenaline igniting something in her, an unquenchable need to know. But just as she was about to touch the glass, the attic door slammed open. A gust of wind rushed in, extinguishing the laughter, yet the shadows didn't flee. Instead, they coiled tighter around her friends, who were frozen, wild-eyed, and gasping for air. "Get away from them!" she screamed, her voice raw. She felt a tug deep within her, the shadows pulling at her soul, begging her to surrender to their whispers. "Emily!" Jake shouted, terror twisting his features as he fought against the grasping darkness. "Please!" She turned, uncertainty clawing at her throat. A chance for escape, a chance to save them, flashed bright in her mind. Would looking into the mirror reveal a path, or seal their fates? In that split second, the attic trembled again. The walls moaned as pressure built, a silent understanding dawning on her. To save one meant risking them all, but what was the truth waiting just beneath that cracked surface? What lay beyond the darkness, lurking with eager anticipation? The choice was hers, and time was running out. Emily's heart raced, a wild drum echoing in the claustrophobic space of the attic. The shadows pulsed, alive with a wicked hunger, as they twisted around Jake and Mike. She could see the fear etched in their faces, their breaths shallow and quick. "Emily! We need you!" Jake gasped, his voice laced with panic. The shadows tightened like a vice around him, tendrils wrapping around his wrists, pulling him toward the floor. It looked like they were trying to pull him into the world behind the mirror. "No!" Don't give in. Mike shouted, hysteria creeping into his tone. His body jerked as more shadows rushed to engulf him. You have to fight. Emily's instincts screamed at her to break the mirror's hold and reach for her friends, but the figure's eyes burned into her, urging her onward. Open your mind, it croaked, its words sent shivers down her spine. Embrace what lies within. It might not only save them, but also free everyone lost in that hell. What hell? She breathed, more to herself than anyone else. Images from the mirror flickered back to her children lost in the darkness, their laughter replaced by unbearable cries. The laughter began again, shrill and mocking. It grew louder, echoing around the room like 1,000 tortured souls. The wind howled through the attic, rattling the windows. Shadows splayed out like claws, reaching for her, enticing her to give in. Just look. You'll understand. The figure implored. Its desperation was palpable, as if it were trying to break through the veil of darkness for her sake. With all her strength, she tore her eyes from her friends, forcing herself to look into the mirror's depths. The surface rippled as if reacting to her gaze, enhancing the swirling mist into chaotic shapes. Visions rushed at her, a storm of memories trapped in time, gnawing shadows that consumed innocence. Please, don't do it. Jake screamed as he struggled against the dark grasp. You have to fight. But what if I can save you? She whispered, torn between love and terror. Sacrifice? You may unleash ruin, the figure hissed, its face contorting into a mask of anguish. They take, and you give. It's a price etched in blood. Emily's thoughts whirred like a cyclone. She could feel the pull of the mirror, the shimmering depths offered promises and lies. She couldn't afford to hesitate any longer. With trembling hands, she braced herself against the looming dread and tried to focus. Suddenly, she felt a jolt, as the mirror rippled and twisted, kitchen knives and glass shards erupting from the surface. A cacophony of screams reverberated as the trapped souls cried out, merging with the wind howling around her. Emily's eyes widened, the souls seemed to beckon her, their fingers thin and ghostly emerging from the mirror's depths. Join us, they whispered, their voices haunting and despairing. End your friend's suffering. Trade places. It's the only way. A blinding light flashed through the darkness, and Emily felt her consciousness fracturing, breaking between the world she knew and this nightmarish realm. The fabric of reality twisted violently, slapping her with both relief and terror. No. You can't. She cried out, struggling to focus on the faces of her friends as they teetered on the brink of the abyss. Just then, the attic shook violently, the shadows recoiling like a wounded animal. For a moment, the laughter fell silent, and she could hear her heart pounding in her ears. In the eye of the storm, Emily felt a thread of clarity pull her. She had to choose. The mirror had opened a door, revealing the crushing weight of sacrifice. Emily, the figure rasped, urgency now creeping into its voice as the shadows began to surge forward again. You must decide. The choice burned in her chest, a choice that could seal their fates or shatter the mirror's curse. Did she dare gamble with souls intertwined in agony? I want to let them go. She yelled, determination flooding through her. But was it too late? As the shadows lunged forward, Emily braced herself, knowing the truth of the darkness was yet to come. Could love prevail against the insatiable hunger of the abyss? The attic trembled with unrelenting intensity. Emily's heart screamed at her to act, to save her family from the encroaching shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. The laughter crescendoed, filled with malice, echoing through her very bones as she considered the truth in the mirror. No! She cried, shaking her head vehemently, defiance bubbling to the surface. I refuse to play your game. Each word sparked something in her, a flame that pushed back against the shadows, igniting a flame of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Jake and Mike struggled, their faces etched with fear as the shadows continued to close in. Emily! We can't hold them, Mike exhaled, desperation lacing his voice. The darkness clawed at their legs, reaching, tugging them closer to the void. It wouldn't be long before they succumbed in that harrowing moment, clarity pierced through fog like sunlight breaking dawn. "We're not weak," she shouted, rallying her family's hope with her. "We can fight this together." The shadows twisted, as if stung by her courage, but they didn't relent. Taking a deep breath, Emily stepped closer to the mirror. "Show me," she demanded, her voice unwavering, echoing through the chamber like a battle cry. "Show me how to save us." Instantly, the mirror flared up, swirling to life. Within its depths, she glimpsed the faces of lost souls, their anguish raw yet intermingled with shadows of light flickering at the edges. Visions flooded her mind, memories of laughter, play, and joy twisted into despair, lost inside the laughter of the abyss. She could feel the pull of their stories, begging for release, desperate to escape the chains of their own despair. "Emily! Don't!" Jake shrieked, panic slicing through the air, but she shook her head fiercely, focusing on the flicker of hope that pulsed through the darkness. "You're not alone," she proclaimed, her voice weaving through the thick air, looking not just at her family, but at the shadows surrounding them. "We can break this cycle together." The air crackled with expectation. "The price is steep," echoed the gaunt figure, "but truth is within reach." Shadows hesitated, surprised by Emily's resolve. "I don't care about the price. As long as we're together, we can face anything." Her voice filled the room, shaking the very foundation of fear, and then it happened. A surge of energy exploded through the attic, crackling and wild, as if it were the very essence of their will. The shadows twisted, scrambling back as if they'd been burned by the brightness of Emily's courage. "Come on!" she shouted. "We leave together." With adrenaline rushing through her system, she reached for Jake's hand, then Mike's, forming a circle of connection. The mirror pulsed, brightening in response, illuminating the attic as shards of light filled the space. "Together!" they shouted, their voices blending in unity. The shadows writhed, angry at their defiance, reaching for them with desperate claws. But with every word they spoke, the bonds of fear grew weaker. "Emily! It's working!" Mike gasped, surprise flickering in his eyes. The shadows howled, their cries echoing like thunder, demanding to have their way. With one last surge of determination, Emily summoned every shred of hope within her. "We choose light!" she cried, and as she did, the attic exploded into brilliance, sending shards of darkness scattering. The laughter faded, replaced by a sweet silence that filled the air, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. As the light enveloped them, Emily felt the weight of despair lift. The lost souls she had glimpsed smiled faintly as they faded into the light, carrying with them the echoes of their anguish. "You did it!" Jake exclaimed, looking around wide-eyed. The shadows withdrew completely, leaving the attic bathed in warm rays spilling from the now dulled mirror. As the oppressive darkness retreated, Emily hugged Jake tightly, relief flooding through her as they breathed in the light of hope together. "Can we go home now?" Jake asked softly, a simple query that suddenly felt monumental. "Home," Emily repeated, glancing at Mike. Their eyes met, sharing unspoken relief, understanding. "Yes, home." Together, hand in hand, they made their way down the spiraling staircase, the heaviness of the shadows now a faint memory. As they pushed through the back door of the cabin and emerged into the night, the sky shimmered with stars, a soft breeze brushing against their skin free at last. The echoes of Maplewood's past would always linger, but as they stepped into the warm embrace of the summer air, Emily felt an indelible bond grow stronger within them all. They weren't just survivors, they had faced the darkness and lived to tell the tale. As they drove home, laughter erupted in the car, each heartbeat a reminder of their victory over fear and uncertainty. They had turned a nightmare into their new beginning. And tonight was just the beginning. If you loved what you just experienced, you need to subscribe right now. Don't even wait a second to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our chilling tales coming up next. Smash that like button to support the channel and feed the algorithm. Every click counts. I want to see your reactions and theories flooding the comments below. And don't forget to share this with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Stay tuned for more exclusive stories.